SPL has finally made the wise decision to release their own plugin of their own SPL Machine Head hardware. This is a digital tape deck emulation unit developed in the 1990s based on a Lyrac TR-533 tape machine. The plugin uses the original code of the hardware. Now, when I heard that, my initial reaction was, but how, since code from the 1990s doesn't port well immediately to today's machines? SPL themselves answered this question in a nice PDF. I assume this will be included with the release version of the plugin. I use a pre-release for this review. That old original code was loaded into an old Windows 2000 machine, and there were a few adaptations made to make the code work in modern operating systems as a plugin. So as far as getting the real deal, this plugin is as real as it can get in the audio plugin format. A side note, the original hardware was 100% digital. The inputs and outputs were a digital format as well. There is no ADDA conversion happening, so the code is the only thing that matters. There are some changes made though, and that's mostly in the filters, since the original ones were meant for 44.1 and 48 kHz only. In these days, people also work at much higher sample rates. So a new filter approximation system, as SPL calls it, was developed by the original coding team. Now, this development team didn't stop here. The original unit had computing limits and compromises had to be made, like for instance in the number of steps for the high-frequency boost. In this plugin version, the original code and behavior is available as the original setting. But there's also an ultimate setting, which basically is an overhaul and complete refinement of the original code, which should result in a more open, spatial and clear sound. Now, before we dive in this actual sound, please make sure to subscribe if you haven't already and hit that little like button. Now, the sound of the Machine Head plugin. When you hit the drive of Machine Head and push more with either drive or input level, there is more high-end added up until a certain point. After this point, you need to use the high-frequency adjust dial to get more high-frequency boost. This is a gradual shelf and it can start around 2 kHz already with a proper boost. This is really useful to add nice high frequencies and air to a mix. If you looked carefully, you could see that I clipped the input. But here's the fun part: Machine Head continues to sound good, even or maybe especially with a lot of boost and drive. With extreme boosts, the sound doesn't get destroyed, even if it adds distortion. With more moderate settings, Machine Head adds a lot of punch and excitement. It's really cool. It's interesting to switch between original and ultimate settings. The more refined ultimate setting doesn't sound better by default. I prefer the original on this live rock recording. Here's another mix reference. There's a difference between original and ultimate versions in loudness. When you really push the plugin with the same settings, the original is about half a dB louder, which you will notice. With more moderate settings, both variations are equally loud. Another difference between the ultimate and original settings is that ultimate has an extra low-end control. This one is centered around 75 Hz with the 15 IPS tape speed and around 110 Hz with the 13 IPS setting. Also, the high-end behavior is different. And between 15 and 30 IPS, this high-end behavior also changes, but there's enough to play with. Here's the difference between the original and ultimate settings at 15 IPS with extra bass boost on ultimate and the same high frequency boost setting for both. Regardless of which setting you use, Machine Head can really glue and mix together. Since the Machine Head is in essence a tape machine emulation, you should expect a form of tape compression. In Machine Head, the compression behavior is basically like a brick wall limiter with somewhat of a soft knee. The attack is instant and the release is around 50 milliseconds. You can hear that when you really push, you get a slight pumping effect. The output gain is literally just gain. Use it to compensate for any change in level due to the processing. Another thing to point out is the exact saturation behavior. The plugin adds a third-order harmonic. Yes, that's right, just one harmonic. This means though that the overall sound doesn't get overhyped or oversaturated at all. And I think that's one of the reasons why you can push this unit so far. If Machine Head would have been released in 2024, it would have ended up on my best of year list. For 2025 this is still too early, but it is on my shortlist. Check Machine Head out to see if it fits in your audio toolshed.